All right, Big Cat. It's the Friday tradition in season. Who is under the most pressure this weekend in the NFL? Trivia question determines the first pick. You have the question, and hopefully I'll have the answer.
Okay, Patrick Mahomes was injured last night and will likely miss at least one game. Who is the last reigning MVP to miss a game?
The last reigning MVP to miss a game. You know, this is one of those that I should know, and I don't know. I guess I should just pull out a name. Tom Brady.
Nope. Cam Newton, 2016. I thought you would get that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't because okay. I never think I'm going to get these right. I would be horrible on Jeopardy. I love watching Jeopardy. I would be horrible on it because when that clock's on and you got 4 seconds, I can't think of the answer.
It has nothing
I
to do with
wouldn't
the
have
fact.
gotten that one if you'd given me 10 minutes, though.
It has nothing to do with the fact that you have rocks for brains, right?
That may have something. That may be a factor. Go ahead and make your first pick.
All right, my first pick, it's going to be an easy one. I'm going to say Dan Quinn. I think he could get fired after this game, Mike. I honestly do. I know you were saying that he'll make it to the bye week in 2 weeks. If the Rams get right in Atlanta on Sunday and we have another defensive performance like they had against the Cardinals last week where David Johnson and Kyler Murray were just ripping off big play after big play, I would not be shocked if Dan Quinn is fired on Monday morning. The old Jay Gruden come into the office at 5 a.m. so I can kick you out the door. So I'm gonna have Dan Quinn as my guy, the most under pressure. He's fired regardless, but if he can win this game, he at least will probably last the rest of the season, I'd say.
But you're talking yourself out of the notion that he's under pressure. Because my reaction to you is he's not under pressure because we know it's over. There's no pressure left.
But you don't want to get fired.
Coach.
No, you don't want to get fired mid-season. There's an extra level of embarrassment there, and you don't want to have that happen. And so I think if you, Mike, whether you know you're going to get fired regardless or not, like going into Sunday, he knows that if things go really bad, he's fired in a matter of hours. That's pressure.
But then he doesn't have to worry about his old team coming to town the next weekend, the Seahawks, and kicking the crap out of him. I mean, I think if you sense it's already over at the end of the season, why not just get it over with now so I can make plans for next year and I can get, there's a point where I think it feels so dysfunctional and it's so disruptive and it's driving you crazy. It's a relief factor if and when you finally get out. I bet Jay Gruden is relieved that he got out of Washington. Not that Atlanta is nearly as dysfunctional, but I just feel like there's a point where the pressure is so great, the pressure goes away. It's like isn't your theory that the surface of the sun is cool, right? It's kind of like that.
Yeah, that's not the theory, but okay.
I thought the theory is the sun is cold. I thought that's something.
If the sun is hot, why is space cold? We know that the surface of the sun is hot, but why is space cold?
All right.
Okay, you screwed it up. Don't try to do my jokes because you always screw them up.
All right, I screw up every joke, so I may as well try to do yours. At least people will understand what I'm talking about, maybe. Jason Garrett's under the most pressure this weekend, by far, because it's still in the balance for him. It can still go finish the season and get yourself another contract. He can still salvage this, and he did it last year. He operated very well under a very similar set of circumstances. 3-5, going into Philadelphia, Sunday Night Football. If they lose in ugly fashion, he could be fired. All of that's out there now, and you've got Jerry Jones, who supports him completely and totally until the moment that he no longer does. He can roll out of bed any given day and say, Jason, it was fun, but see you later. So I think he is under the most pressure by far going into this weekend's games.
Okay. All right, my next pick. That's a good pick. I had that as well. I think my guy, Matt Nagy, I think he's under some pressure this week because it's a bye week. The offense has looked terrible. You're hoping that they come back. They made some adjustments on the offensive line. Kyle Long went on the IR. They want to be able to run the ball. It's going to be tough against the Saints. Last year, the Bears lost after the bye week to the Dolphins, even though that was a Khalil Mack got injured and the whole game kind of fell apart there. But I think there's a little bit of pressure on Matt Nagy to have a strong performance with Mitch Trubisky coming off the bye and put a lot of Bears fans in Chicago at ease that this season is still okay and they still have everything in front of them.
Who's under more pressure between Nagy and Trubisky? I guess if you thought it was Trubisky, he'd have been your pick. But it feels like they're kind of both in the same spot.
But Nagy is also, it's how the Bears came out so flat in London that's kind of, when a team comes out that flat, I put it on the head coach most of the time. Like, the head coach has to find a way to get the team up to play 60 minutes and not show up in the second half and hope you can win the game. So the first quarter of this game on Sunday, if the Bears look flat again, then there's an issue. Then there's a big-time problem. So I think for Sunday's game, it's Matt Nagy. For, obviously the future, Mitch Trubisky's under pressure.
We mentioned Mike Vrabel's name earlier in the program, and I think Mike Vrabel's a great coach, and I think he will be a great coach. But I also know this. Since Jeff Fisher completed his 17-year run with the Houston Oilers, Tennessee Titans, they have been rotating coaches out quickly. It was Mike Munchak to Ken Wisenhunt to Mike Mularkey. His reward for finishing in the Final Eight was to get fired from Mike Vrabel. And now look at where the Titans are, because they set the bar high by beating the Browns by 30 points to start the season. And since then, they're 1-4. They haven't won a home game. The Browns win isn't as impressive in hindsight as it seemed at the time. The win over the Falcons, not nearly as impressive as it seemed at the time. They got the Chargers coming to town this week. If they lose this one, I think Mike Vrabel has to start worrying about a Titans ownership group that has been very fickle with coaches, deciding that maybe we made a mistake and maybe we need to reset more than just the quarterback position for 2020. I hope it doesn't happen. And I love Mike Vrabel as a coach, but you have to factor in the Titans. They're not quite Washington-level dysfunction, but there has been some dysfunction there in recent years, and I think Vrabel needs more than 2 years to get rid of all of it, but he may not get that, especially if he can't beat a Chargers team that suddenly is among the worst in the NFL on Sunday at home.
Okay, so there you go. Perfect segue, Mike. Way to throw it up to me. The Chargers, the other side of that game. I think the Chargers are under pressure because we've heard it year in and year out. The Chargers have a talented roster. Of course they have injuries because they are the Chargers. It feels like they start the season with 3 Pro Bowlers injured. But this is a big game for them because they're going into Nashville against a Titans team that's not very good on their second quarterback. If the Chargers lose this game, that's it for the season. I think it probably is already it, but it's really it if you lose this game to the Titans. I think the Chargers are under a lot of pressure because what's the future going to look like? They have, again, a talented roster, but what's the future going to look like if the Chargers falter on a season when everyone sort of thought they were going to be in the mix for the AFC playoffs and one of those teams that could contend for the AFC championship?
And they were just so lifeless on Sunday night. Some teams step up in prime time. The Steelers seem to always do it. The Chargers at home. And, you could say, well, it was all Steelers fans. They're used to playing in a stadium that is overrun by fans of the visiting team. They just had no juice. They had no energy. And it was obvious from the first 5 minutes of the game that they were not going to be able to win. All right, last one for me. And this takes us back to last Friday when we spent so much time criticizing Pat Shurmur, the Giants head coach, for punting on 4th and 2 from his own 33 with 7:08 to play, down 14 points. One of the points we made when criticizing that move is at some point people are going to realize that Pat Shurmur may be the problem with the Giants. There's been so much, well, it's Eli. Well, it's Dave Gettleman. Well, it's John Mara. Well, at some point, maybe it's Pat Shurmur. And you have the Arizona Cardinals coming to town, a team that should not beat the Giants. The Giants should be able to win this game. I don't care that the Cardinals have won 2 in a row. They've beaten 2 of the worst teams in the NFL. The Giants have hung tougher than the final score would suggest, 28-10 and 35-14, with teams that are better than them. This is a game the Giants have to win, or Shurmur is going to begin to become the focal point of the criticism, and I think more people are going to start wondering whether or not he's the right guy for this team moving forward.
And, they have to win it because depending on who wins on Sunday night, the Giants are now going to be tied for second place if they win this game on Sunday. So that changes the whole scope of the Giants season. I agree with you. And Pat Shurmur, I was saying this, I was preaching this before Daniel Jones came in. it felt like Eli Manning was a shield for him, and no one really questioned Pat Shurmur and whether he was a good coach because Eli Manning was getting trotted out there every single week and being kind of a walking corpse. So now that it's Daniel Jones, now that you have a winnable game at home and the division has fallen back to you, this is a big game for him. That's a good pick, Mike. I actually, you know what? I'm going to say it, Mike. You have finally beaten me in a draft. You did it. You did it.
Wow.
Yes.
That is a good point by you. That is an excellent point. You've got Dan Quinn, Matt Nagy, and the Chargers.
No, never mind. I'm looking at the picks now. I won.
All right. I got Jason Garrett, Mike Vrabel, and Pat Shurmur. I won. You listen, in that moment of clarity, you spoke the truth for once.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.